All right, so we are back. Cool, cool,
Awesome.
cool. So, so you said you would like to be reading cards later. What about you, Simon? Simon?
Did Simon die?
I
That's
think his
awkward.
mic might have died. Yep. Hello, Simon. Welcome back.
You know, I was hoping that wouldn't happen for the stream last time, and it didn't. And
All right.
Early this time.
So,
yeah, I know my letters.
would you like to read any of the cards, or would it be easier if you think, or do you think, like one by me, one by you, or just me? All do them.
It would be best if you read them all.
Okay. So let us get started shortly. Well, the first card we shall start with, and remember we're doing by CMC. So we are starting with Rune Blast. Yeah.
Because we've restarted the VOD, people on the VOD aren't gonna have the whole thing about what we're doing. So are we just gonna ignore that? Or should we? Quick recap: we already did white, blue, and black. We're doing red, green, and the artifacts, which is the important part.
I didn't think about that.
Doharum.
Yes. Cool. All right. So the first card we're going to be talking about is Rune Blast. It is red. It's an instant. It deals 2 damage to target creature. If you control a tapped artifact, it deals 3 damage to that creature instead. So a classic, shock variant with some set themes going on. Any comments?
Tapped is such a weird condition for a galvanic blast variant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure why.
So it's specifically
it doesn't stop it from being taken by every deck. You just play Shots Unlimited.
Yes, so this is one of those situations where every red deck will play this card. Occasionally, well, not occasionally. Red has it's intended to synergize with runic mana, because runic mana is the way you're tapping artifacts to do stuff. So that's what's going on here, and that's a big theme in red. So theoretically, most red decks should be able to enable this, but I definitely think there is going to be a feeling of oh, I just can't really enable this really well. That sucks. Or, hey, I have this card that looks... Yeah, exactly. That's a big part of it. I think if it wasn't tapped, this would just be like... It would be a non-condition in the set. You know what I mean?
I don't know. It's just so easy to shortcut it as if you control an artifact.
Yeah, it certainly does make it more complicated, and we'll see if I think we're coming upon maybe the conclusion that for a not really useful reason.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a kitschy way to just reward runic mana. Honestly, should this card just ask you to pay extra runic mana, or maybe that's an uncommon that now exists, and just a more simple burn cell becomes this slot?
I think that it should be like a shock that turns into a lightning bolt. Personally, like creature or player.
And then there are constructed concerns there or whatever,
but I think you wanted a strictly better shock.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, that's fair. I like my strictly better shocks though.
Yeah,
my favorite strictly better.
This is really funny. I'm gonna advocate probably for a lower power level. Koala's gonna advocate for a higher power level. It's gonna be good.
My thing with lower power level is I agree that you have a point in that the power level I want is probably not best for your set. However, the thing with lower powered leveled sets is I already have to play official Magic sets that are low powered. I'd rather not spend my time playing low powered uninteresting sets. So if it's high powered and if your set is high powered, I don't need it to be nearly as interesting in order for me to want to play it, which is the same as if it's low powered.
With that said, Doharum is interesting. We
Yes.
are reviewing it. Did you have anything else to add to Ring Blast?
No, other than I think it should allow you to hit other targets.
Sure. All right, let us move on.
But yes, move on.
Yeah.
Tyrant Skirmisher, red for a 1/2 creature, a Viashino warrior. Was this the only other Viashino that was in the set, or was this added since last time? Because to clarify, after the last video of this, he made some changes to white and blue and black based on what we had said, and some other changes just on his own to black and red and otherwise.
I remember going through
Or red and green.
the entire set and only seeing one other Viashino as a blue-red rare. I might have missed this. He might have added it. I'm not sure.
Regardless, it's good.
I'm happy.
Yes,
Yeah.
we like it.
I love that art for Doharum. Kind of wish the crop was a bit closer to the creature.
Yeah.
But yeah, it reads like a Viashino.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the actual effect, sorry, I kind of stopped halfway through reading the card there. It has Warband. So because this is a new VOD and a new stream, we'll be going over the details of the mechanics again. So Warband, you can kind of summarize as Soul Bond, but for attackers. And specifically that means when a creature with Warband attacks, if it isn't paired, pair it with an another unpaired attacking creature you control. And whenever those creatures become paired, both creatures get a bonus. So for example, Tyrant Skirmisher gives itself and the paired creature +1/+0. So when it attacks with something else, it is a 2/2. Boom!
Is it a 1/2 to begin with? I thought
Yes.
it was a 1/1.
Yeah, it's red for a 1/2.
Yeah.
So this is a primo aggro creature.
So turn 1 you play this, turn 2 you play 2-drop with haste.
Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if there is one at common, but
It's actually an awful card in limited, and I appreciate the 1-drop being bad, since good 1-drops tend to be really working. Design-wise, this really communicates what Warband is doing in the set. It's making you turn sideways, and
it's running people over.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a nice contrast to the white-blue slow stuff.
Yes. The white-blue, where's the aggro?
Yes. Where's the aggro gone?
All right, so I don't. Does any problems? Anything to discuss here?
No, seems
I
solid.
want to say that it looks like a nomad, but that would be a lie. I have none.
You're just continuing the meme at this point, Simon. And so what we did see during the last one of these is Warband in black, and red is the other main color for Warband in the set. So black-red is kind of the Warband colors, where I think green gets Warband, but it's not a focus, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right.
Yes.
We'll see if that's the case.
Warband is the junged mechanic in the set.
Okay. So that's something we'll be looking for. And on the screen you'll see the other black archetypes. Or sorry, the other. I keep saying black when I mean to say red. We'll see runic mana and artifact aggro stuff going on here. So that's something to look out for. Let's move on to the next card. We have United Strike. It is red for an instant. Target creature and each creature it's paired with get +2/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. So at the default, this is Rush of Adrenaline, which is a slightly under par combat trick.
Oh, it's not good. It's not great. It
Okay.
never saves your creature. Like, the 1 toughness doesn't stop your creature from being traded with.
Mm-hmm.
So your dream scenario is often just a 2-for-1.
Yeah, you cast it for the face damage in a lot of cases.
And you don't want that in limited, and in constructed,
most of the time.
it's obviously low under par.
Yeah. So, but in this example, you're getting a lot more stats if you're warbanding.
Yeah, I adore United Strike. I think it is a very exciting and very fairly costed card.
I would agree with that. I do think something to keep in mind is that the valuation of limited tricks is very dependent on the average power and toughness of creatures in the set. So just because that one toughness wasn't enough in what set was that? Kaladesh or not Kaladesh?
Shadows.
Shadows over Innistrad, which was a very
Shadows
heavy format.
was a very what?
Toughness heavy.
Yeah. So just because it's bad in that set does not mean it's necessarily bad in this one.
Yeah. Well, luckily there's numbers to modify here.
Yes.
You know, and another thing to note is how well it mashes with the other the black warband cards. The black warband cards were granting Death Touch and Menace, and attacking with some Death Touch creatures, giving them trample. Attacking with some Menace creatures, buffing their power and giving them trample.
Menace
feels good.
It makes it so much easier to trick your opponent into having both their blockers.
Yeah, just they quad block and you blow them out. Ooh. That's the dream right there.
I love war in Christmas land.
All right, but no problems with this. We're basically thinking. Like the art is kind of meh, but I imagine a lot of like the better warband looking art is being used on warband cards.
It shows 2 or more people just.
I like it personally.
A dragon thing.
Yeah, it's like she's like, "Hey, attack him there," and he's like, "Can do."
I'm helping.
All right, so it looks good. The next card on the list is the Bulgrim Archaeologist. We have 1 in a red for a 2/1. It's a dwarf wizard. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, so artifact fall, target creature can't block this turn. So this is kind of we talked about this card before. It's the part of like a mirrored pair, you might almost say, with the white common piker creature that grants out flying. So this is kind of the analog to that. Both of which are a big part of making the white-red artifact aggro deck. Are we? So we were very positive on that card. Are we just as positive on this one?
I am. I don't think it controls the board too much in limited. It honestly is worse than the flying one, which I very much appreciated. I am very much pro anything that turns artifacts into tempo.
Anything that makes things that wouldn't affect the board affect the board.
Yep.
Yes.
That's how you make your set beam matter in Magic, especially when your set beam isn't creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly for limited, the art is great. Just an angry archaeologist dunking his place.
I'm not sure if it's quite dwarf. That's fine. I think there's only one card that cares about dwarves in the set.
He has a stout face.
Yeah, it's decent. Any other thoughts, Koala?
No, I dig it. It works. Does its theme.
Cool.
Dig it.
Next card, we have Echo of the Past. It is 1 in a red for a sorcery. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-land cards exiled this way. So one thing to note here is that Wizards has yet to do Impulse Draw at common. So this is one of those situations where, in a few other cases with other sets, I've said, hey, just, be aware, you may not have known. It feels like this cool new thing Red's getting and something we should use all the time. The Wizards has yet to do that. What is the situation with this card? Is this too complex for common?
Well, I remember I had this argument. I had my PowerPoint slide, 10 reasons why you shouldn't do this at common, other than the Preston. Then someone just demolished me with a Marrow post saying, yeah, we could do that at common someday. That and Pass the Chips has made the conscious decision to not care. I personally would avoid it since I think and I really don't like it.
Simon just cut out completely on my end. I'm not sure. If that's-
Briefly, I think he's back.
Okay, cool.
Simon?
I have the most wonderful mic in the world. So I don't like Impulse Drunk Common because it is far too swingy for my taste. And in a set with what is it? 4 runes? Whatever. The Spellmorph mechanic. I find it harder to appreciate with that since I'm not sure how that's supposed to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I, as a very enfranchised custom designer and Magic player, am not quite sure how that interaction happens or doesn't.
I have no idea either. My guess says it doesn't.
I don't know.
By the
So-
way, Zoom, it's the thing explaining the mechanics.
No, I know what Arshig's talking about. I was just saying, like, that can be solved by just zooming in. So just read it off the card.
Mm.
Right? No, I was aware that it was cutting it off. I just didn't. I just thought most people would be reading from the card, which him making me think about that made me realize, wait, why aren't I zoomed in? Because if people are going to be reading off the card, just make it the whole screen, right?
Yeah.
So cool. So something to think about. Obviously, there's a lot of things to hit with this. You know, a lot of artifacts and things you'll be. Or like especially with Runic, even hitting an instant or sorcery, you're not quite as much like, oh, but I didn't want to cast that this turn. You're like, oh, I'll just seal it. You know, I'll just put it on the battlefield. What do you mean?
My
Are
gut says
you talking about rules wise?
Yeah.
rules wise?
No, yeah, you can totally do that. Yeah, this is a casting option. It doesn't override alternative casting modes. Wait. Because it's a special action.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You did you bring that up while I wasn't paying attention and trying to talk to Arshig?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was saying that, like, I'm not sure how that rules interaction goes, and it's just a very swingy effect.
We'll look at a sealed card later, but like it is likely a special action, or like it makes sense. I can't see of any other way for that to be a special action. So therefore, yes, this is a total epic feel bad with that. Wow,
Yeah.
that really sucks. Yeah, no, like if that's the case, this is just cannot be in the set.
But yeah, rarity aside and set context aside, act on impulse but 2s instead of 3s. I'm pro that.
Okay. All right,
Me too.
let's move on. Sorry that I made that take a little longer than it needed. We're
okay.
going to look now at Lay Mutation. It is 1 in a red for an aura. Enchanted creature. Enchanted creature has first strike and 1 in a red. This creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn and has seal for red. So actually, we can take this opportunity to look at the sealed reminder text. It says, rather than cast this, you may blah, 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 blah. Or should I read? I'll read it out just because it's the first time we've seen the mechanic here. So, rather than cast this, you may pay 2 to create a colorless relic artifact token and exile this card face down, sealed to it. While sealed, this has flash and can be cast by paying its sealed cost and sacrificing its relic. So you basically put it under an artifact face down, and you can pay the seal cost to flip it face back up again and get your opponent, you know, say, haha, you activated my trap card. So this,
Traps are in the set.
ha ha ha. Because, yeah. So, this templating for this reminder text very much screams special action. So that's probably how it is going. As for this,
Especially with the,
Mhm.
especially with it being morph, which is also a special action.
Well, this replaces the event of being able to cast it, so it should work with impulse draw. I remember when I was testing a mechanic of mine for Heirloom, it was also a mechanic that replaced the event of casting. And I was testing.
oh wait, was I silly?
hard.
Yeah, it's the special action to turn them up, but you cast them as a morph.
Turning them up is the special action.
Right. Okay, so this might work then, huh?
No, it does, because it replaces the
Oh,
ability
okay.
to be able to cast it.
Okay, so we're good.
It's like suspend.
Error avoided. Cool. As for the card itself, the first thing that leaps out to me is the 2 breathing rather than fire breathing. Just, I don't know, it seems unnecessary, we might say. Just especially because it's... explain?
Like, okay, so 2 breathing, I suppose, is often an upgrade. Never mind.
Yeah, 2 breathing is better than fire breathing.
Yeah, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, in terms of like play stuff, it's you get to do the I'm just gonna pump my creature exactly enough to first strike, kill it less. But that's kind of the fun of the card, if you know what I mean. And especially with the fact that you're sealing it for red, right? You're casting. You're saying I'm casting it for red, and then I'm buffing it for 1 in a red. It's like it becomes a little mathy. I guess maybe it's this way to avoid just like red being the main bottleneck for that. Because if it was regular fire breathing and it's like, oh, well, I kind of want to give it +4/+0, that means I have to spend 5 red in a single turn. I guess that's the idea here, is that that's just not going to happen very often.
That's what theoretically stops it from controlling the board too much. Like, it's easy to forget that you can block with first strikers and just make limited not happen.
So you're saying the limitation with how much red you have available to, that would make the card more fun?
In practice, yes.
Okay.
Like, a lot of the time. Although I think this card would just be so much cleaner if it was like +2/+0 first strike. Seal has a lot going on. Don't give me a seal card with an activated ability and a keyword.
Yeah, so maybe what we're seeing with our discussion about, oh, should it be this? Should it be that? Oh, there's issues either way. It should just be a static buff.
I'd agree there.
Like, and pass the chips. I know you don't care much about complexity, but think of it this way. You were showing someone your set. This is one of the first sealed cards they see. They hate the mechanic now because they can't parse how this card plays.
Yeah, they don't get to focus on the seal part of it.
That they have to care about.
Right. Well, because like...
It's seals for 2, then 1. And I have to pay 2 to give it 2, but also first strike.
Like the base card here without seal is already kind of weird for a common. This is an unusual aura. Granting fire breathing is not typical, let's say.
It's seal has so many moving parts, and this adds more.
Yet another. Yeah.
And I really have trouble appreciating.
Well, and this even has like the hidden moving part of being an aura, like of having to have something to put it on.
Yeah.
But I think.
And then how much red do I have even enters the equation? Even with 2 breathing, I have 6 mana but only 2 red sources. I can only proc it twice.
Oh, I was saying that like the hidden complexity of it being an aura isn't really relevant to the new player. So I think the issue here is that
it's relevant in play in terms of what you're expecting to be tracked. It doesn't affect the comprehension complexity, but it does affect the complexity in play, is what I'm saying. It's minor compared to the other issues. It's just something I thought about. Yeah,
that's fair. Cool.
So are we good on that card?
Yes.
Cool.
I love the gremlin art. Don't have much to add.
Oh, just like or it's like whatever mutant, whatever kind of strange creature this is meant to be.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Very Doharum. Sorry.
Cool. Hey, Drake. Thanks for the host. I love
Sweet.
saying that. All right. Anyways, the next card we have on the docket is Ruin Sneak. It is 1 and a red for a 1/3 creature, human rogue. And for the cost of 1 runic mana, it gets +2, -2 until end of turn. So runic mana is a symbol. It's a new symbol. It can be paid with mana from an artifact or by tapping an artifact. So if you have a artifact that's just sitting there, you tap it, that pays for runic mana. Or if you have a mana rock specifically, that mana rock now pays runic.
It's interesting because it feels more complex than like improvise does, but it's like a better improvise.
Well, it's or do you mean better? Do you mean better in terms of as like a designed mechanic or like strength?
As in you can tap either your artifact, your mana rocks for it, and use that mana, or you can just like, I guess it's about the same, but like
Yeah.
it's effectively codified, like it's improvise the mana symbol is what it is.
Yes.
And that like didn't occur to me the first time we covered it, and now that occurred to me, it makes it a lot easier to conceptualize the mechanic.
So, on the card for a second. This doesn't make me want to play
Hey,
artifact.
or sorry.
This doesn't bring me into.
Hey, Koala.
artifact.
Yes.
Can you mute yourself while you're not talking? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, Simon.
Yeah, it doesn't bring me into artifacts. Doesn't make me. I don't run them to support this, and it doesn't make me excited to play them, which is fine if that's not the purpose it is serving.
Yeah, I think I played a little bit against Pass the Chips' blue-red runic mana deck, and this very much seemed like the wheelable goes in the blue-red artifact or runic mana deck, just because it's like an early blocker turns into attacker if you need it to in that deck's kind of like in that deck's style.
Well, my experience with like, this type of card in limited, it's not even turns into an attacker a lot of the time as much as it
is a different blocker. Yeah, that it is. Yeah, it was more of that actually. Now that you say that.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, I have nothing against the card as long as it's not supposed to carry any of the weight of, hey, artifacts are good and fun, and you want to play them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a certain amount of just that as
for the nomading, where she is running across an empty field of like face rib cage.
Strange.
But she's running across a weird landscape, which feels very nomadic to me.
I think mostly he's been going for nomads as in like people wearing hooded robes. Kind of more particularly. Not to say that's correct, it's just that's kind of been the aesthetic I've noticed so far. You know, like Bedouin, like just Arabic kind of.
When you can't see their faces.
Yeah.
In that case, there's some other art. But, yeah, like this card I'm completely fine with. It does, like, it
does functional things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Koala, any thoughts?
I like it. It does functional things. It wheels the runic deck. Nothing really new to add.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Let us move on. We are now on the Dwarven Ambushers. They're 2 and a red for a 2/3 creature dwarf warrior. And for a single runic mana, target creature gains haste until end of turn. So this can be Dwarven Ambushers. So you could play this on 3, immediately tap some sort of artifact that you've played before. It adds haste. And for the rest of the game, you can give, if you have a mana able to be tapped when you need it to be, for the rest of the game, your creatures have haste. So in a certain way, this is almost better in a deck with no other runic mana, because it is kind of just good as a your creatures have haste card, which in the testing that I did, this card was actually nuts.
Yeah, I was about to say, remember when I said that this isn't the card that makes you want to play artifacts to support it? This is the card that makes you want to play artifacts to support it. Like, I almost want to argue that you shouldn't have this gameplay at common. Like,
It's a little strange.
Artifacts untap at your untap step. I know that's a little weird. So this does just give one creature haste every turn if you have an artifact.
Yes.
That you can tap. Like, that
which
is
you will.
ridiculous.
I mean, and this isn't even necessarily one of those examples of, oh, it's just like a solid red card. It's strong in a way that is not necessarily good for limited environments.
Yeah, and I just don't enjoy having your creatures have haste as long as you control an artifact on a body.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what this is in practice.
Yes.
I also think this is hilariously tempting, not for any of the artifact aggro decks, but for the warband decks.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get in.
Well, I mean, if you're being aggressive, like if you want to be really, really aggressive, like this is the card you want. Like I'm not playing this in blue-red, dinky, runic mana, twiddle my thumbs and my artifacts. I'm playing this in murder you deck.
Like spending a turn to seal down a vaguely relevant spell,
like the white board buff or something.
Yeah.
I think you guys are being a bit hyperbolic personally. I think that this card is fine at common. I think it's fine and limited. It's exciting, it's powerful, but not too powerful. I could be wrong, but I think it's actually okay. Just to give my 2 cents.
Okay.
That was Koala of Powered Cubes.
Ha ha ha. Alright, let us move on. Also, love dwarves. We have a new card. It is Ruin Collapse. It is 2 and a red for a sorcery. Destroy target artifact. If that artifact had any counters on it, Ruin Collapse deals 3 damage to its controller. So most of the time, that's going to be hating on structures. This is an artifact destruction card that is not 1 or 2 mana because of the existence of structures in this limited environment, but then says, hey, if you do destroy a structure with it, it's still worth. You get to hit the opponent for 3.
No, they're loyalty counters.
Obviously, though, that being said, this compares very poorly to a lot of other artifact hate we've seen in the past that does this same effect. But we're also in an artifact matters block. You are going to have targets for this. So there's a lot of little balances side to side here.
So I do enjoy this as an overcosted shatter for the environment. I also like how it very much plays on structures, where a lot of the time you can think of a structure as life gain, because they need to answer the structure before they...
And it says, not only do you get rid of that barrier, yes, not only do I get rid of that barrier to me hitting you, I also hit you. Just a big punch.
So I think that the name, when I heard the name, I immediately thought destroy a land. That's what I thought the card was going to do, and it doesn't destroy a land.
Well, so a part of that... Oh, sorry.
I think it should be destroy a non-basic land, because I don't think that's actually going to be relevant that often, but it's a nice upside if it is.
Well,
you mean as an alternate mode to this?
Yeah, as an alternate mode.
Okay.
Well, no, he has this cycle of legendary lands, and I don't actually want those to be kind of severely punished
Hmm.
in limited. Like, I don't think that it. I think those lands are already clunky and hard to use. They shouldn't be also just easily answered
Yeah, because
by.
you
I
do
don't
play
think this
this.
is easily answered. I
No,
think
like
you
there's
rush.
so many people are playing artifact creatures. They're playing artifacts that do really affect the board.
Yeah.
You know,
So
so
like
this
You're
is
already
almost a
running
reasonable
this a
attack.
lot, and I just don't like. Cool, I opened this legendary land, and now it's just going to get ruin collapse.
yeah. I think the solution here is just change the name.
Yeah.
Very much.
That is fair,
What
yeah.
I was going to say before is part of that is due to the like lands and large artifacts, especially in the set structures. There's going to be flavor similarities there. They're going to be a little
Yeah.
bit because how often have we had in Magic a land really be a building just because they don't have the flavor for it's a building until now, Window Harm.
Yeah.
So something to think about. Let's move on. We have Scarland Marauder. It is 2 and a red for a 3/2 creature, human warrior. It has Warband, and whenever it becomes paired with a creature, both creatures gain first strike until end of turn. So the first strike Warband card. What do we think?
I like it.
It is a very tempting card for me in particular. I just enjoy 3 power first strike since it's obscenely hard to deal with in limited.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that's where the set wants to be putting its exciting cards, so I would consider collecting data on how exciting it is to people in general. I don't like.
You're saying if it appeals to you specifically, that's a bad sign.
Well, it could be indicative of just being more appealing than it wants to be, more distracting from something.
I mean, it has a
Might
set
just be
mechanic
me.
on it. You know,
That's true. Warband is in practice a workhorse, is
Yeah.
my concern. So,
well, I mean, I think making your workhorse
Uh.
as appealing as it can be is still nice.
that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I don't like the use of Scarland in Doharum cards.
As a name.
Since I remember on the Shard of Jund in the Plain of Alara, there's Scarland Thrinax and a few other things that reference spelled exactly the same, the Scarland. And this art in
Yep.
particular is very, very Jundy.
Yeah. So theoretically, this is some sort of flavor that exists in Magic already. As for the effect, I love attacking first strike. I really want to use my first strike when attacking. I find that to be more fun than the alternative a lot of the case. So this enables me to do that and makes me happy.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. We have Coalescing Force. This is 3 and a red for a sorcery. Create a 5/1 red elemental creature token with haste. And seal for 2 and a red. So if you want to, you can cast this as a sorcery, just as a 4-mana 5/1 with haste. Or you can seal this to have a flash, like theoretically a flash blocking 5-mana red elemental creature token with kind of a 3-mana deal 5 damage to target attacking creature. I've always found this design to be kind of awkward. I can't really specify why though, so take it away, Simon.
In the very few Doharum tests I have participated in, this has been way underpicked. I want to get this out of the way real quick. This is just deal 5 damage to an attacking creature, and it's a little overcost. It's not great to an attacking creature. I don't want that, but it actually has
is usable.
quite a low floor with the seal, and I think people undervalue that in practice. But power level aside, the design is super finicky. The reason people are missing that is because 5-1, 5-1 with haste doesn't communicate. You know what you should do? You
You should
block.
block with this.
This is a fantastic blocker. It always trades.
Yeah, and it
No.
also just like then makes it doesn't feel very red. Like the red parts about the card are the worst parts about the card.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
like just being 5-1 doesn't communicate its more useful purpose. It like you can hear Mark Rosewater talking about piggybacking a lot. This is piggybacking off of like ball lightning type effects. I have never seen a ball lightning block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
And-
makes me think of cards that act completely differently than this. Yeah.
Yeah. I think while it does use the mechanic seal well, because it completely changes the purpose of the card at a different speed, I don't think it does so in a clean. It doesn't communicate that in a clean way
Mm-hmm.
to the point of almost being unintuitive.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd agree with that. I can
yeah.
read the next card. I'm home and able to.
Cool. Would you want to go me
Every
then you,
other?
then me then you, or Simon? You want to get in on that, or are we just
I
Koala
do
and
not.
I? All right. So yeah, let's
Just
just go
moving.
every other. So you take it away.
I got it. Gnarled Pass Brute. It's a 4 mana, 2 red, 4/3 creature, ogre warrior with warband. Whenever Gnarled Pass Brute becomes paired with a creature, both creatures gain trample until end of turn.
I love this card.
What do you guys think?
I just really like it.
You just really like it. Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, like
Me too.
I enjoy beefy red boys.
Yep.
Like the art is, I enjoy the atmosphere that sets for Warband and Doharum as a whole. Just the ogre TFOing some nomads or warriors or scouts or soldiers or whatever they may be.
Yeah. Yeah, I've really been surprised by the amount of warband art that is like, oh, there's actually like a cooperation, like people working together to fight theme going on in the art.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I
didn't notice it before.
Warband against the ogre, but the ogre is the creature. I didn't
No,
realize.
no. Well, no, it looks like no, because it looks like
It's an ogre warrior.
the one in the back is facing the other nomad,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So it's the one in the back and the ogre are working together. It looks like.
What? No. They're fighting. They're slaying the ogre together. Look at their line of sight. They're both looking at the ogre.
I think we're just interpreting the line of sight differently then. Well, whatever.
Anyway, it's other. It might not be exactly evocative of Warband, but overall, I think it's very tone setting.
Saying that
It's
just
very-
after I said that it was a perfect example of warband in the set.
Open to interpretation. I said nay. It's overall very evocative, and I think does good things for communicating Doharum to the players.
Good stuff. All right, Arshig, I turned up their volume. Tell me what you think.
Does
Yeah,
that
there you go.
require us
I'm
to
a
talk?
little bit louder.
All right, I shall read this next card. We have Surgebringer. It is 3 and a red for a 2/4 creature human wizard. For a runic mana and tap it, it deals 2 damage to target player. So this is going in the kind of Dirtle blue-red control-y artifacts deck where you're just wanting a runic mana every turn to accrue value in the game. What do we think?
It is a completely functional card for the blue-red archetype.
I kind of wish that there's a mode to target creatures, but I know that that's too complex for common.
not-
Oh, it's also
Well,
just
it's
really
harder
insanely
damage.
good.
Yeah.
not if you accosted it. There's a cost at which it's not insanely good.
You just don't want the gameplay of
Yeah.
accruing that much card advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that and making combat math the worst. But yeah, I think that mechanically this is doing nothing wrong and doing some things right.
Yep.
I don't actually love the art. The top left makes it read very Kaladesh.
It does have a little bit of stuff going on there, yeah.
Like I see an improvised like mechanic and something built for the S. And I'm like, oh, that's a white person on Ether Revolt with blonde hair. Didn't know that was
strange.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's good.
Well, let's move on.
Tectonic Shift. So this is interesting. This is a sorcery for 3 and a red. Tap up to 2 target artifacts and or lands. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step. Draw a card. So this is actually, I think, new design space. Like, I remember reading that this is something new that they're putting in Red's color pie. I don't remember when they officially made this thing, but this is the tapping down
Shadows.
Yeah, Shadows. They gave it Red to do that to lands for Innkeeper. And that was just because they wanted more granularity in land punishing than just destroy target land. With that said, Artifacts is a statement, actually, and that has not been done explicitly.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that's ever been done in red.
Like,
I just did a short Scryfall search.
I'm not going to say if it has or hasn't, or should or shouldn't be done. I will say that
it feels fitting.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like this design when you're, actually, I do like this design when you're pushing very large, like greater than 5 cost artifact creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I do like it for
and
that reason.
And runic mana. Right? It says, hey, you're doing this whole low opportunity cost tapping thing, and I'm saying, don't do that.
Yeah, like it's not good enough to be main boarded. It can just be a good tool for slower red deck, or one trying to lock down annoying artifact blockers. Like I know that white wall is quite tedious, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Cool. And the cantripping is just to give it a little less of a little less swingy. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Any thoughts, Koala? Or other thoughts?
I have nothing else to add.
Cool. I shall read Dark Fire Roamer. It is 4 and a red for a 5/3 creature elemental horror. That a bit of a weird type line there. And it has trample. And it has 2 and a red. Put a neg counter on target creature blocking Dark Fire Roamer. So this says, if you hold up a lot of mana, it is very hard to block this creature effectively.
So it also makes it harder to trade with the creature.
Well, block in a way to prevent the damage, or yes, block in a sort of trading board space. Yes.
I say that to emphasize the mathiness of it. I don't actually enjoy this a ton. I really enjoy the design. But you have the mathiness of trample plus reducing the toughness.
Mm-hmm.
And then can my creature deal 3 damage after they pay any amount of 2?
And if they have 6 mana up, what happens if I block with 2 creatures? I mean, and Warband's in the set, right? Warband is already making like a combat a little bit more complex in red. Blocking decisions and all that.
Yeah, so, I really don't like, because you play this on turn 4 or on turn 5. Next turn you have 6 mana up. You attack with it. If you block, you kill the blocker, or you just trample over it. You deal between 2 and 5 damage, and then you play whatever spell. And then if you either got a creature from this, killed a creature with your creature, or you have mana up in order to cast another spell or whatever interaction you have. It's pretty brutally the best card in the set so far, at least at common.
Okay.
I do not like that.
Yeah. Seems a little weird,
Okay.
bad,
We're-
not desirable. Let us move on.
Yes. So this is the last common in the set for red. This is Devastating Rays. Is there a card called Devastating Ray? Rays? Because that's kind of an unintentional opportunity for punished. It is 4 and a red, so 5 mana total. Instant. Devastating Rays deals 4 damage to any target. It's a removal spell. It seems solid. It is.
This is unfriendly fire from Ixalan, right?
For 5 mana.
So is an Ixalan, I think.
No, unfriendly. I thought unfriendly fire was 4 mana and insane. I didn't play a lot of Ixalan.
You're thinking of Bombard.
I'm thinking of them. No, that's the 3 mana one at sorcerer.
Sure, I don't know.
Today we learned that a
it's-
lot of burn spells.
Yes, with many different combinations of numbers.
Yes, this
So-
is unfriendly fire.
So this,
Okay.
with the lack of, Voltron in the format, this still just like kills a lot of things. Like it looks kind of mediocre and bad, but it actually just kills a lot of the format. Right? Like Warband's not granting toughness most of the time. So that we've seen so far. You know, we haven't seen any creatures that are buffing their toughnesses. So yeah, this is most of the time a 5 mana murder.
We talked about the last review, how there's no equipment, very few auras that buff toughness. Things only get smaller in Doharum.
Yes.
It's just a bread and butter red common.
Sure. Dragon doing a thing. Cool. So that is done with red commons. Is there anything that we're noticing that seems like a notable developmental trend across any of this stuff? Oh, and Past the Chips is watching the stream and he points out it hits structures. So that's obviously a new thing that's coming with structures. Is that they're able to be hit with burn spells as well because they're artifact planeswalkers.
Yeah, Rune Blast explicitly doesn't, and that might be why it doesn't want to be a shock. Actually.
Yeah, that is probably why that was that way, Koala.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So this hits a lot of things, very versatile in this format. Cool.
Yeah, no, Devastating Ray is actually way more important now. Since some of the uncommon structures which we won't get to today, are just brutal.
Oh, you know what? This is actually not that amazing of a view. Well, whatever. So are there any things we noticed that were missing? Anything that was like, oh, we don't see that kind of thing, or we didn't see any of that kind of thing in red commons here? I mean, we did only see 2 creature burn spells. That is notable. Obviously there are less total red commons because of all the artifact stuff.
I believe something like 3 is the normal number.
Oh, right. There's an artifact creature that sacks itself to burn, to creature burn.
Oh,
and is written red.
Circling Triton.
Yeah. So, and of course, the Coalescing Force also kind of acts as a burn spell. So that's probably fine. So that's not a problem. We saw 3 Warband designs. It's pretty clear that Warband is, being centered here. We had 2 combat tricks, Lay Mutation and United Strike. I can't see any problems in red. General, anything missing. Yeah. Cool. Let us move on to green.
Yep. Starting with Cut Down.
Let me take a second to get situated here.
Okay.
Yes, starting with Cut Down. Who read the last one?
I did.
Okay. Cut down is green for an instant. Choose one. Put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature with flying, or target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains reach until end of turn. So, I've commented on this card before a little bit. I was not a fan of the fact that I suffer a little bit from what do you call that? Where it's like hard for you to think of. Well, whatever, doesn't matter. It's like a game design or like a player fallacy or something like that. But for me, I don't like the fact that both of these modes feel the same. Right? They feel like, why is it choose one? These two modes do the same thing.
Reach.
Yes. And they obviously don't, but I'm thinking that the first mode is just it's like it's hard to explain. You don't use this. You don't use the second mode.
Makes the reach not matter.
Yes, I was about to say that. You use the second mode when you don't need to be killing something with flying, because it's infinitely safer and does about the same thing to be putting neg counters on the creature with flying. You use the +2/+2 mode when you're saving your creature from removal, or when you're blocking something that isn't flying.
Yeah, like no, it's absolutely better. I agree with that. I do really enjoy the card. I don't know.
It does definitely feel like it should end up being one or the other, and then right now we're just trying to see which one feels better in the environment.
I mean, it's a neg counter set, so finding any way we can get neg counters on things is, I think, good.
I don't know. I just really enjoy main boardable plummet variants, especially since Pass the Chips has a tendency to push flyers to a degree, or just make really efficient flyers. And actually, almost every good flyer we've seen has less than 3 toughness. Wow, this is kind of gross now.
That was good. I mean, this only isn't good against the 5-mana blue flyer, which is 3/4. So cool. So maybe some slight appearance issues. Maybe it's slightly less appealing than whatever. But yeah. Let us move down. Flame Lash, wasn't that from the Planeswalker decks? Yeah, Flame Lash was in the Planeswalker decks.
And not every card has to be the most powerful version of it for a number of reasons.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Easily. All right. Koala?
Yes, next up is Druidic Seeker. It's a 1-mana 1/2 creature, elf, druid, nomad. That does not read like a nomad. And it has 1 runic mana. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. So it filters your runic mana into actual mana.
Thank you for saying that for me.
So it filters runic mana, but we know that runic mana is not a tempo loss most of the time. So this is a Birds of Paradise if you have an artifact on the battlefield. That is kind of what this acts like.
Like, it's not a bird, it's an artifact creature you're tapping, or even just...
Well, yeah, I'm saying it's not that difficult to find just an artifact that is sitting there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you play this turn 1, turn 2, you see a card.
This is not a limited card spell. It just does too little for the setup cost. But going, you don't really.
I mean, this is only like constructed absurd if there are 0 mana artifacts or 1 mana artifacts.
It doesn't even have to be absurd if it's constructed to be a tool.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is what I'm saying. Like the warning bells that may have been coming up in my mind when I was saying that earlier are more reliant on what is in the format. Right, and if I remember correctly, there aren't 0 mana artifacts being printed in the set, and there aren't very many 1 mana ones either.
Artifact, but you're spending 2 cards to get a Land War Elf there, so that
but it fixes.
There.
It fixes.
Still, you're spending 2 cards to get your Bird of Paradise. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
that's
well, that's
arguably-
assuming that artifact isn't doing anything on its own. But you're just saying it's a
Zero
synergy
mana
piece.
and you're tapping it, it's not doing anything. Let's be honest.
Okay, yeah. But if it's 1 mana and it doesn't necessarily have to have a tap ability,
Then
Yeah.
that's a lot less. Like,
yeah.
I think it is, except in very contrived scenarios, like overwhelmingly fair.
Yep.
As far as we can tell.
Cool.
I'm glad that Simon wants to undervalue this because I will take all of these I can get in limited and build 5-color good stuff.
So a part
Feel
of this
amazing.
that is weird is, well, I guess it's thematically weird, but not actually mechanically weird. So never mind. We're going to move on to the Passage of Time. It's green for an instant. Target player sacrifices an artifact or enchantment. What do you think about this?
It's interesting. It's kind of weird in like, because like against the seal deck, it's just going to be like, what's the most useless seal? Okay, I'm going to pop that. Or, what else could it be? Like, or I guess against the structures deck, it kind of like, if you only have your structure, then you're in a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, it's yet another thing in the set that encourages going wide with artifacts.
yeah.
That says don't splash for artifacts.
Yeah, it's solid. It's kind of what I'd expect green to do. It's the naturalize of the set. It's
Needs quotes in the flavor text.
yes, it does. It is something I would not be surprised to see Wizards print at some point.
Oh yeah, easily.
I don't enjoy the explicitly Egyptian art.
I agree with that.
That art does not read explicitly Egyptian.
That
It
is
reads more
like-
Mesopotamian.
The vast majority of
Completely
people,
Pharaoh.
it's very, yeah, it reads very much giant statue of Pharaoh has fallen over to me. Even though it's like a woman.
There are female pharaohs, and there's a pyramid in the background.
Well, I know. I just mean like there's no like mask thing going on or anything like that, you know. Cool. Pass the chips in the chat says he also doesn't like it. Cool. Let's move
Good.
on.
We have accepted. Okay,
have-
this is my turn, right?
Yes.
It is Lost Secrets. It's 1 and a green for a sorcery. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player this turn, draw a card, and it has seal a single green mana. This is not, in my mind, a green card. This is a blue card. I could be wrong, and I could
Green
say
gets
green card.
curiosity all the time.
Also, I
Even
want somebody
max
to find the
curiosity.
top
Was that Simon in the background?
Driven from Omnicat did this exact
What do you
effect.
mean?
Driven to despair, the driven side.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like-
yeah.
Warriors,
So-
like 6 cents curiosity is not new to green.
Well, even mass curiosity is in precedent in pi. The other thing is that is this. So this is kind of swingy for common. I guess like it's certainly simple, right, and appealing. Like it's very clear why you would want to seal this. I think to me.
So I don't think this is a good use of seal, actually, since this isn't modal. Like, in the situation where your opponent's shields are down, and you don't have to pay the 3 mana for it to be a surprise, you have 3 mana anyway.
I think
like
it's one of
that.
those situations where bad players think it matters, so they enjoy that. Right?
Yeah, like, there's just never a situation where you both don't want to pay 3 mana and your opponent's shields are down. Like, I just don't think this is an effective use of the mechanic, and I don't.
One thing you can do is because it's cheaper, but only by 1, so like what I'm about to say is slightly diluted, is you get to cast things to get blockers out of the way, or just like make your creatures harder to block and then seal it on the same turn. You just have more options on that turn, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like harder. It's hard to make the mana efficiency matter when the difference is 1 mana.
Yeah. So maybe this would go up to 3 mana on the base mode.
I guess, like, it's just so rare that you.
I mean, these are all things that are pointing to.
Sorry. Making it 3 mana on the base would make it worse. Then you would actually never pay for that.
It should be an enchantment, I think.
You mean enchantment on a creature, like an aura, a true curiosity aura?
Honestly, I would think bump it up and make it a global. I mean,
That's not
actually,
common.
That's much a common.
Well,
yeah,
sure,
that's common.
like curiosity, the aura isn't uncommon for card advantage reasons.
Basically, there are problems here. We can't decide on what they are, but they're there.
Please fix.
Yeah. So yeah, and even the recent green aura that did this wasn't it common. So yeah, that definitely proves that point. All right, let's move on. We have Nerim Ritualist. It is 1 in a green for a 2/2 creature insect shaman. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, you gain 1 life and scry 1. So this is triggering both off of just your typical sacrifice outlets coming out of black, and also sacrificing sealed artifacts to cast the spell that's underneath them. That's what's intended to be going on here.
I have no issues with this.
Yep, it's an upside bear.
Or,
Helps the green-black deck do its thing. It's an effect that doesn't do weird things at instant speed, which is nice because you don't want to be like, well, I sacrifice the seal at instant speed, on board trick you. It's no, we're just grinding out value.
I enjoy that you're normally not sacking 2 things a turn, so you don't get the awkwardness of scry 1. Do I keep the OK card?
Right.
You just lose value on the second scry.
Right. Or you can choose to do that. Right. You can choose to I scry it away, I scry again. You know.
Well, but you're often not put in that situation.
Yeah.
You usually sack.
I'm just saying it's easy to avoid that situation. Yeah.
This card reads poorly to me.
Arshig in the comments is saying that the scry 1 should go first. Scry 1, then gain 1 life.
I'd agree with that. I don't like this card. It feels like one of those cards, like, it feels strictly worse than a bear. Like, I know that it's not, like, it's a bear with upside, but it feels wrong. And I don't like that. And I guess that could be part of what you're going for with the insect themes of this, like.
I mean, yes, this is a weird insect shaman.
Yeah, it just.
I mean, part of it is that it's like not an amazingly green condition. You know, sacrificing a permanent doesn't feel particularly green. Neither does the scry 1. Like, it almost feels like an Esper card.
Yeah, that actually might be it. I'd much rather see, like, whenever you sacrifice a permanent, you may pay 1 if you do put a creature, like, put an insect token into play. Something like that.
Put a plus counter
like,
on it.
I just don't think that would want to be common.
No plus counter.
Yeah, like,
it's probably
I think the card is fine for green. Green gains life and scries based on doing things with permanence. This is a bend of that, a reasonable one.
You know, green does get to care about dying. I'm just saying that's not like stock standard green does this all the time.
Yeah, and it's a
Right.
reasonable bend that
Yeah.
the serpents make.
Well, that's what I was trying to point out. But in combination with this other stuff, maybe that's altogether making it feel
Well, like
non-green.
the gain life and scrying is arguably not a bend at all. That's just stock standard green thing.
No, I'm just saying feeling. You know, like
Well,
if
I'm
you
saying
want your
that's
green
a
cards.
statement the set wants to make
Yeah.
about the effects of
No,
that
no,
set.
no. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just clarifying. Specific. Sorry, I guess I should have said I was clarifying based on what Drake was saying in the comments. Sorry, I should have said that. I was responding to him. All right, let's move on to the next card. Koala.
Scarland Ranger. It's 1 and a green, so 2 mana for a creature. Elf Nomad? Question mark. Whenever a permanent enters the battlefield, Scarland Ranger gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and it is a 1/1. This is weird.
This is very weird.
It encourages going wide.
And it's only a bear. Well, it's never a bear on. It's almost never a bear on blocks. It's sometimes one if you're curving out. Well, okay, if you continue to hit your land drops. So theoretically, if your deck is mostly lands and creatures, this is always a bear. But that's not a fun thing to do. I don't want to have to go through a hoop to make my creature a bear.
Yeah, I think the floor is too low, and the ceiling is too low.
Yeah, it's just like obviously we could be missing some sort of, oh, there's actually this crazy synergy thing that's at common makes it like a 4/4 all the time. I don't think we are. I think this is like most often a bear, which is sad.
You put your token, you put your hordling, you heal your hordling outburst.
Mm-hmm.
Then instant speed, giant growth, make 3 goblins.
Easy, blow them out.
Blow out, yeah.
Blow them out.
Constant spellmorph, right? Spellmorph with
either a bear or get +2/+2 until end. And I think it'd be.
I could see +2/+2. That at least rewards you for actually like doing the weird synergy stuff of whatever it is asking you to do.
Yeah.
You know?
It feels very, very similar. There's a card in the video game Eternal that is a green 1-mana 1/1 that when play a land gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
You got a little quieter.
Oh, sorry about that. I took out the wrong earphone. It's a 1-mana 1/1 that gets +2/+2 when it has like landfall +2/+2. And that is a very niche but solid card in the aggro decks in the format, and is mediocre to okay in constructed because it's 1 mana do nothing. And that format has life set at 25 instead of 20. So I think this being a 2-mana 1/1 that gets +2/+2 whenever a permanent, I think this also encourages bad play for noobs in that you want to play your creature before combat rather than after combat. So like turn 3, you play your land, you tap 3, play your creature, swing with your 5/5. So that might be something to look at. With it triggering off of lands, that actually might be okay because it's like it's going to be a turn 2 3/3 at common, and that seems.
So admitting this very much hurts. Plated GP was only a little too good. Like, and that was landfall gets +2/+2 on a 1/1 with first strike. Like, plated GP, I will stand by saying it was too good, but not by much.
Yeah, I mean, and also being in green where creatures are expected to be better is a big part of that, causes that to be a little bit more acceptable, right?
Yeah. And I don't think it's.
I mean, I think there's a better change to this though, where it's just like.
I think Ruben was campaigning for being a 2/1.
I think there's better effects where it just gets plus whatever as long as it's not attacking alone. Just to mirror Warband a bit.
Mhm. Well, is
and
like I feel like I you're saying just because this is trying to be too clever, that it's kind of it's
I think
landfall
so.
and
Like
it's creature fall and it's is it like a nomad go wide
it's artifact
thing?
fall.
It's not pushing any themes, but it's being complex and developmentally strange, which means that it's just not the kind of thing you want in common. Therefore,
I just don't think permanent fall is fun. Do you play lands, creatures, and artifacts in Doharum?
yes, you do.
Get rewarded. Like,
I think that this could be. I think like if this was +2/+2, I'd be all over this card. I like it.
I mean, it could actually just be creature fall, Then maybe that feels a little weird in an artifact matters set, but
what deck
you know.
is this meant for, actually?
That's something I was
It's
going to
not
ask.
for
I
the range
feel
deck.
like
Not
this
for the
was
sacrifice
I feel like this
or
was a
ramp. It's also
holdover.
for Nomad Tribal.
Simon, I feel like this was a holdover from when Persist was in the set. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we'll see if past the chips. Yes. Let's move on. We
I believe
have
is your
Sheltered Life. It is 1 and a green for an aura. Enchant creature or artifact. Enchanted permanent has tap, add 2 mana of any color. So what you can do with this card is you can turn any of your creatures into a mana dork that taps for 2 mana of any color. You can turn any rock you have or any artifact you have into a mana rock that taps for 2 mana of any color, which therefore makes that mana runic mana. What do we think?
This is broken. This is completely pushed too far. This is a 4 mana card. When it's attached to lands, like it's
Well,
kind of
lands are
like
harder to interact with, and you're not
that is
spending 2 cards. I'm not
that is
like.
that
And
is fair, but this effect is still
there's also
still
like add 2 mana for 3 with some downside on lands is often.
Mm-hmm.
Like Overgrowth hasn't been printed in a while for good reason, but so
Yeah.
that's an example.
So, and a part of the clarification needed here is this meant to be in any combination of colors or of any one color, right? Or was that one of those things that was changed in the removal of mana pool? I'll look this up.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now because I think it's unfairly busted, and I'm trying to find precedent for that.
Like, I think it's reasonably testable.
Okay, so add 1 mana of any color. Oh, well, it needs to be 2.
Because what happens is you play your 2 mana seal spell. You play this on turn 3, and then you still can cast a 3-drop. You tap, and then on turn 4 you have 6 mana. Like this ramps you by a non-zero.
So
you're still spending 2 cards. It is like not
because you're turning a creature that is otherwise meant to be doing something on the board into
I
now a
think
dork.
90% of it. But this is I'm going to take
easier
any
to
seer
interact
card
with than like a rampant growth.
You can bounce the creature, you can destroy the creature,
and then you get 2 for 1.
Yeah.
So
in discussion, what do we think about what this does as a design, where it's intended to be something that is?
I think it's easy to forget that it becomes runic mana. Like,
do you think that's one of those issues only applying during draft or even during play?
Both. I think it will be confusing during both. Also, green doesn't have a lot of runic mana, if I am remembering that correctly.
Yes.
So it's weird to give green a source of now this is runic. And actually, I really don't like artifact auras with a lot of your artifacts being things that sacrifice themselves. since it's not just the seal mechanic, it's also a cycle of artifacts that pay mana to sack themselves, like the Crackling Triton variant.
Yeah, I think this is very much a response to people saying, "Oh, uh, I think this is
So-
past tips put more effects that treat artifacts as mana rocks and like get that part of the runic mana equation more in there."
So
Yeah.
I also want to say for precedent, Karametra's Favor from Theros block is the last time we got an enchantment creature that had enchanted creature has tap, gave an enchanted creature a tap effect. It enters the battlefield and draws you a card, and it's still only 1 mana and not 2 mana. I think.
Well, it cantrips is
So if it didn't add 2 mana, this would be useless in terms of doing the runic mana thing I was just talking about, because it'd just be like
Yeah.
turning. It wouldn't change how the artifact functioned in that form.
I'm saying that this should be a 3 mana spell, and I am determined to prove if you decide to keep it as a 2 mana spell, I will break it in limited, and I will beat your face in and go 3-0.
So
with my
Burton
first-
Bullet, we're mostly talking about draft, but occasionally we will be talking about constructed, standard level constructed most of the time. And we probably won't bring up any specific other sets. We'll just think about like, in the typical standard environment.
Yeah,
Cool.
So I think this card is busted. Let's move on. Ancient Might. We good to move on? Just making sure.
Yep.
Ancient Might. Enchantment aura for 2 and a green, so 3 mana total. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3, and it has seal for 3 and a green. What do people think of that?
I think the numbers are so weird here. I'm not positive that the 4 mana seal here is worth it. Like obviously it becomes then a trick, but it's like a trick that, because this is then like how good would be 4 mana put 3+ counters on target creature? That'd be really good, wouldn't it?
that'd be pretty good.
Yeah. So but 6 mana over 2 turns? I'm not quite as convinced on that. I mean, like, you always have to think about the fact that the 2 mana is how much you're paying to get the ability to be casting it for seal. I don't think this effect in particular needs to be specifically more expensive.
I won't argue otherwise. Just
Okay.
I don't really love the gameplay of surprise +3/+3 that sticks around.
I mean, do you think that's an issue of just how big it is,
Yeah.
or just a buff that's, because a buff that sticks around, we see that constantly.
It is purely size. Like
Okay.
it's how this essentially always wins a combat when blocking is involved and you surprise this in.
No, I agree with that.
And I think this, gameplay-wise, is a reasonable use of seal, where a lot of the time you do just play it for 3 as an Oaken form with ups and just swing it. Like, that is a reasonable use of the card. It is actually modal.
Yep.
I will defend the 4 mana cost on the basis of I don't love the gameplay.
You on the basis of you want it to be sealed less.
Well, yeah, want it to be sealed less if it's Swiss big.
Okay,
it's not
cool.
that it can't happen, I just think it should happen less.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that designers sometimes want to do, which is like make a card that looks good for a reason, but that reason won't actually happen that often, where you're allowing people to have the fun of, oh yeah, seal, woo, sealing with this card, and then have it not actually cause the problems that it might if they do that all the time. Cool. Can we move on?
Yeah. I like this next card.
Cool. We have Petrified Remains. It is 2 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. If you control an artifact, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So this is one of the examples where we're seeing this is an Artifact Matters set. Artifact Matters is in all the colors, even green. What do we think about this?
I want it for EDH. I like it. I like my cards that ramp me and give me lands, especially in my Omnath deck.
Gameplay wise, this is completely fine. I love the art. It's very atmosphere setting.
Sure. Power level wise, it's slightly worse than Cultivate, or like it's much worse than Cultivate in the base mode, but it's better Cultivate because does Cultivate enter untapped or tapped?
Tapped.
Okay, so this is then better Cultivate if you have the artifact, which is that's a fine power level arrangement to have.
Better.
No, exactly. It's just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a fine set of power levels to have. Cool. It's 5 lines. A little strange. This is something I pointed out to him before, where it's not pushing like a specific set theme, but it's pushing the set theme of Artifact Matters. So that is a fine use for a slot, for a red flag slot.
Oh, and big artifacts especially.
Yes. Savage. Oh, right. Yeah, actually, something I'll talk about with this is there's a series of uncommon and rare creatures that ask you to pay for them with multiples of different kinds of mana. So, like, it'll say when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it for each time you spend green to cast it, do something. And so this is really good for I'm trying to fix my mana to cast. To put a lot of a specific kind of mana into an artifact kind of gameplay, which is cool. All right, let's move on. Koala?
Yeah. Am I muted? I can't remember. Nope, I'm not muted. Yeah. Wait, is it my turn to read? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Savage Centaurs. This is a 3 mana 2/3 creature centaur barbarian. I cannot English, I promise. Warband. Whenever this creature attacks, if it is unpaired, we know what Warband does. Whenever it becomes paired with a creature, both creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn.
Cool. So it's a 3/4 with upside when you Warband it. Classic green pair effect. 4 mana or 4 toughness is killable in this format. By how many creatures is it killable? I don't know.
There aren't that many 4-power creatures with high toughness.
Mm-hmm.
There rarely is, mind you. That's not unique to Doharum.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the card's fine. It is an exciting amount of board presence. It evokes Warband well with the 2 centaurs, even if it doesn't read completely like a creature. Notably Barbarian, not a Nomad, because reasons. I think I don't have much to add. I think this is fine.
Yep, that was good stuff. Let's move on. We have Struggle for Survival. 2 and a green for sorcery. Put a number of -1/-1 counters on target creature equal to the power of target creature you control. So this is kind of a fight spell, but in the form of neg counters, and specifically a one-sided fight spell.
Yeah, this is a Savage Bite, I believe. Rabid Bite.
Yeah, Rabid Bite, but 1 mana more and neg encounters. Right?
Yeah. It does the neg counter set thing of a normal thing that neg counters. Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of a bend, but like not an unreasonable one.
Right. I agree. I like this. I think it's a little weird, but I like it.
It's
like
powerful.
weird is good in this kind of format in a lot of ways. Once again, another
Yeah.
flavor text that has no quotes.
In reference to Scarlands.
Oh yeah, that's just something he'll have to think about. I imagine the average player will not know that Scarlands is a thing that exists in Magic, if it even really does in any capacity.
Yeah, it's probably just me being a huge Jund stan.
Mhm.
Overall, like, I have no issues with the card.
Well,
There's an amount of players
Drake
who would be
points
upset.
out- Drake points out that this is a one-sided fight effect, and clear shot and the one-sided from Kaladesh are uncommon. So this isn't a common, especially with it.
I
Well,
mean,
no,
we referenced
Rabid
Rabid
Bite
Bite. Rabid Bite's the Shadows of
was
Innistrad common.
Yeah, like it can be. It just depends on
I
what
mean,
the set
we've
wants.
seen one-sided fights in Red at common twice, haven't we?
Oh, Ambuscade.
Oh, and
Was
Ambuscade,
common.
yes.
It shouldn't have been, but that was for being powerful, not complex.
Yes, that's true. All right, let us move on. We have. Is it my turn? No.
It is my turn. Sorry. Tunnel Warden. It's a 3-mana 3/1 creature insect soldier. When Tunnel Warden dies, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. This seems okay. Like
It's
I'm not
completely
happy.
decent.
Or the
Yeah.
sacrifice deck. Seems
Yeah.
fun.
It's like you trade it off in combat, and then you sack the token it leaves behind. Or if you really want to, you sacrifice both. Not amazing.
Yes.
It's a fine role player. I really enjoy the art. I am really passionate about the insect people of this set. So, good stuff. Let us move on. We have the Oasis Pathwardens. 2 green for a 2/5 creature. Elf Nomad. They have Vigilance and Reach. This is kind of miserable a little bit. I don't know, just like
it controls the board a lot. And actually, like, I personally really enjoy the card for the dumb, slow 6-drop limited decks I enjoy playing. I can agree that it might be miserable to play against specifically.
mhm.
Did
Like,
we move on to Oasis?
Yes.
it's Pathwardens, yeah. Like, it controls the board really well, and 2 damage repeatedly can pressure the opponent. Like,
Mhm.
this just really encourages the opponent to hold up their, like, X3 blocker and not attack with it,
Yeah.
to not get attritioned to death.
Yeah, it's weird.
This
It's like it's a wall that
can't
encourages the opponent to also wall.
With that said, I think that might be fine depending on the gameplay the set wants to create.
It's true.
This is like a counterweight to Warband.
Well, and especially with the other changes that were being made to that we suggested last time, with like making the low drops in white a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, the only thing I might do is make it 4 toughness so it dies to Devastating Race.
Mm-hmm. Something to think about. All right, let's move on.
Cool. Narum Outlanders is a 5-mana 4 and a green for a 3/4. When Narum Outlanders enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. When you sacrifice a permanent, Narum Outlanders get +2/+1 until end of turn.
So this is just yet more stuff going on in the green-black sacrifice deck. Gives you something to sack, tells you what you get if you sack, and that is stats.
I enjoy that the buff makes it square stats.
That's very nice.
The second time it becomes a lot less nice, but that, like, I don't think it wants to be sacrificed a permanent for the first time each turn anyway.
Mm-hmm.
this notably a nomad? Like, nomad is really random.
Yeah, that's something that we can look back at through green if we want.
Like, no, it's just some things weren't nomads. This is, I guess, because they're carrying a beetle across the desert.
Mm-hmm. Well, like, you see, they have like packs and they're traveling. I don't know. They're probably riding on the. I think those are spiders. They're
Sure,
probably riding on the backs of those spiders.
I just would not have known this was a nomad unless if Arshig pointed it out. Like, by the way, thank you. It when drafting the green-white nomad deck, and yes, there's supposed to be nomad tribal in certain colors. Like, I would not have known to pick this up, especially since it's geared towards the black-green sacrifice
That's
deck.
the part that I'm most worried about, is that this is clearly a card intended for green black. Like, there should be overlap, but like this is very specific. This both enables and rewards sacrifice, such that I pretty much, if I was the designer of the set, I would only want this to be going to green black. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, something to think about. Are we good to move on?
Yes.
We have, or did you read the last one?
I read
You
the
did.
last one.
We have Caravan Supplies. It is 5 in a green for a sorcery. It costs 2 less to cast if you control a nomad, aforementioned nomad tribal. And it says creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain vigilance until end of turn. So this is a common overrun in large quotation marks that is pretty much only usable in a nomad deck. Sounds like. Looks
I
like.
enjoy the design.
I disagree with it only being usable in the Nomad deck. I think this is a top end for the go wide green-black insect deck as well, possibly.
It's just
I
too
could see it.
clunky for that and doesn't grant like it's
Well, because
six
they want to
mana.
be actively murdering their own creatures, right?
Yeah, and even then, just it doesn't grant evasion. And for 6 mana, if you're not if you're not actually removing or permanently adding to the board, you should be winning the game.
Yes.
And this does not do that.
Yes, because it's too busy helping you not lose.
Yeah, like I do think I enjoy the design because it's not really useful until you use it as a tempo swing for 4 mana.
Yeah.
Like there is a good argument that doesn't feel green, as Ruben points out.
Mm-hmm.
Green does get vigilance, but they try to restrict
Like,
it.
granting it to the board is very white feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they try to
Yeah,
restrict
I'd agree
green
with that.
vigilance to very large creatures.
Mm-hmm.
With and this does not do that. It just.
I mean, this is also a little strange for like a payoff for a tribe. You like, in terms of these board buffs, you typically see like creatures you control get a buff, nomads you control get a different buff, like, or an additional buff. I mean, you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Just
So,
makes
like,
it
this is
cost
just
less prohibitive.
It's just so awkward at 6.
Well, we've seen similar
know?
things, like the dinosaur fight card. Something dumb.
Well, we have, but that was an uncommon, and it went from playable to amazing. You know.
I just mean we've seen design-wise, we've seen this effect
Yeah.
before. Rarity aside,
I'm just saying that's a part of it I don't like.
that's fair.
You know. All right, we want to move on.
Sure.
This
Yeah.
is, or I'll just read it. This is the Scarland Elemental. It is 5 green for a 7/6 creature elemental, and it has trample. It's a big, large boy. I'm fine with this.
I love this. I don't have much to add.
It's just like if green is doing some dirtle, if green is doing some ramp, this is the card I will enjoy ending the game with this card.
I love that the art has a turtle beak.
Oh, right there. That's cool.
Yeah, like
Oh,
the
and there's
mouse.
people for scale. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I like that.
Oh, not birds this time.
No, a people for scale. That's what we've always really needed.
Those aren't people. Those are giants.
Oh no. All right. So let's look back at green with an eye for nomads. So the 1-drop druid is we remarked it's a nomad, doesn't look like one, but seems fitting for a slot for a nomad. I think, right?
Yeah, I could. Do nomads want to care about artifacts, actually?
The whole
Is that
set
what
cares about artifacts.
No, but is that what the green-white nomad tribal deck is
It's meant to be
trying
like I think it's meant to be like a go wide thing.
Does it?
Just a
What-
typical
Then
creatures
actually,
based
I
deck.
don't think this wants to be a nomad just because it's trying to have you ramp and beat artifacts that
Mm.
tribal decks. And the way he's
And you're
doing
saying
nomads,
you're saying
when he
therefore
left
this is
her-
like infinitely more a blue-green card. For
yeah,
example.
yeah, like exactly. And if you look at the signpost for white green, it's like this 3-drop nomad that I think buffs nomads or something. And that doesn't fit into the same game plan, really. This is way more dirtily.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Next we have the Scarland Ranger, which is the card that we just reamed over. That's a nomad. It seems fairly fitting. The design, I think the slot is nomad-ish. We have the Oasis Pathwardens, which is the one that I don't remember what our consensus was on the nomad part. It looks nomadish.
There are people writing it. It doesn't read like that immediately, but overall, yeah.
Works. It's just like a okay slot for that. But obviously, like we were talking about, this is
It's
seemingly
so defensive.
it's
and
very
slow.
dirtily for what we think is going to be an aggressive deck.
Like this wants to
Yeah.
be the red-green mid-range, the blue-green ramp, and even maybe the black-green sacrifice, depending on how slow that deck is. I think it fits better into literally every non-nomad green deck.
Yeah.
It is just like a reasonable green card that you will play in a lot of decks. So I think that it doesn't not fit.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to it being a nomad at all. I just wish
It's not pulling the weight. Like we're just seeing a lack of cards where it's like, yes, that's a green-white nomad kind of card. Same basically with the Narram Outriders. Like it's going wide, but not in the way that that deck wants to be going wide. Cool. Let's move on to artifacts. Finally, what the set has been all about, what we've all been waiting for, the high anticipation artifacts themselves.
Next time we do a Doharum set review, because we're totally doing this again. Let's go artifacts first, because of how much we reference them.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right. Koala, go ahead.
Antique Curio. This is a 1-mana artifact. It enters the battlefield tapped. It has pay 2, tap, sacrifice it, and add 2 mana in any combination of colors to draw a card. I like it. It gives me runic mana. It is an egg. I like eggs. It is tasty and delicious.
You know what? Yeah,
It
this
is
is
a
really nice because in its
strong
base mode, it's a 1 mana just enables runic just as being an artifact. And then when you want it to be, it adds 2 mana, and those 2 mana are runic. So if you want to, you get up to some sort of 3-cost effect that you really want to do, anything like that, activate 2 abilities at once, you can do that. Or
Yeah,
can just fix you.
It triggers this. It's a sack trigger for that deck. I'm not opposed to the card at all. I think it does things for the set. Pass the chips. DM me that art so I can Photoshop out the rocket ship.
Cool. Let's move on. We have the Teltor Gate. 1 mana for a 0/3 artifact creature wall with Defender. And whenever it becomes tapped, scry 1. So this is very much, it's 1 mana, it's dirtly, this is a runic mana enabler and a half. Becomes tapped, scry 1. So this is in the right deck, well, in many decks, this is a scry 1 every single turn, without fail, on a body that's
since
keeping
a
you
lot of
alive.
even the commons have just activated ability runic costs.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
Like,
a
this is less
reason-
dumb with the ones that, like the creatures that tap with runic.
Obviously, it doesn't do it on its own, so it's harder. I don't think Scryfish was moved to uncommon in Origins for being too good. I think it was moved for gameplay reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I actually don't enjoy Defender and whenever it becomes tapped on the same card.
Yeah, because you can't do, like, the normal thing that taps things, which is attacking. I mean, I think this would honestly be fine as just a 1 mana wall. Like, am I crazy to say that? Just as something that, hey, whatever Dirtle artifact deck is gonna be fine playing?
You mean without Defender or without the tap?
Without the Scry 1 stuff, just like as a 1 mana 0/3 defender.
I mean, you don't really play yoked options, but
Or a 0/4.
Design-wise, it would be fine.
Yeah.
Even if like you shouldn't play it power level wise. Also, since you asked, yes, past the chips, there is a rocket ship going behind the planet in the curio itself.
Yeah, I'm circling it over with my cursor right now.
It's very noticeable to me, at least. And it would be easy to shop it out.
Any thoughts on the gate, Koala?
I like it. I think it makes me want to build janky things.
Understandable. I mean, it is an appealing card, right? Like, it's very clear. Like, if you know the set, it's very clear what you're supposed to be doing here and why you would want to do it. So, yeah. We have the next card.
Fading Lithograph. It's a 2 mana artifact. It has pay 1, tap it, add 1 mana of any color. Pay 7, tap it, sacrifice it to draw 3 cards. I like it. It's a common artifact I can put in my deck to trigger runic mana and
fix.
my mana and fix.
Yep. And if the game goes super long, which you'd probably want it to be in a deck that is interested in the base form, it becomes a draw spell eventually. I think it's good.
I like the design.
Yeah. Good shit. Alright, moving on. We have the Ley Siphoner. It is 2 mana for a 2/1 artifact creature golem. We got a piker. And for 2 mana, you can add 1 mana of any color. So it filters your mana inefficiently. But that mana is runic mana, if you really want it to be. So this is like a extremely good runic mana enabler because it is a passable body that can generate as much runic as you need it to be. What do you think about this?
I'm not opposed to it. Or, have we seen a colorless piker with upset at common? Actually,
I'll check.
I know we had that thing in Kaladesh when it enters, each player scries 1, which is a side grid piker.
I
with Fang Skullkin for 2 target black creature gains Wither until end of turn.
I mean, that's still Preston.
Yeah, no, we have seen Pikers with upside at common before.
Okay.
Especially like and in Kaladesh, for example, there was.
And it's not unreasonable. I was just curious.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I'm okay with this. It's very very playable in the right deck, and they'll be happy to play it. Now, one thing to think about is if so this is an interesting situation where normally the opponent is able to look at your board and see your artifacts that are on the board, see if they're tapped or not, to know how much runic mana you have available to you. This is a card that says, actually, untapped lands are now untapped artifacts for the purposes of runic mana. Do we think that confuses how runic mana is played against too much?
I don't think there are too well, only if there are runic mana activated abilities that affect the board significantly.
Which we've seen one
More
so far.
than haste.
Yeah,
Like,
well, we saw tapping creatures and getting +2, -2. I think are the big ones that affect the board.
Is the only one that affects the board that we've seen at common, and I think that's fine. Like, that's easy enough to play around.
Okay. Cool. All right. Let's move on.
So the next card is Runestone.
This is our first structure we've seen. We've been talking about them, and here they are.
Yes. This is an artifact structure for 2 mana. It says structures can be attacked, damage dealt, removes that many stability counters. So they work, as far as I can tell, a lot like Planeswalkers do. This one has the ability at the beginning of your end step, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. And it has Secure 2. And it assumedly comes into play with 2 stability counters. And then Secure is how you get more stability counters. It's a 2 colorless or 2 generic, and you put 2 more counters on it. And you can do that once per turn, once each turn, and only as a sorcery.
Yeah, I absolutely love this card.
That was a slog to read, though, wasn't it?
I mean, I have no issue with that. If
Yeah.
you can't help me, that's on you.
Like, this possibly shouldn't be common, but I think it's testable.
It's a solid effect, right?
Yeah, I really appreciate this design.
It allows you to grind out a game without affecting the board in a way that feels oppressive. It just allows, and it gets better and better as the game goes later. You're drawing more and more dead cards, lands you don't need. It's getting you that use. It's accomplishing the thing that we've talked about before of structures as this value engine that you want to protect.
This isn't completely on topic for the set review, but I wonder if Pass the Chips made it a neg counter set to make it so structures are damaged to less.
I imagine not. But that would be cool. If he says that was his choice, if that's why he did it, we should just go, wow, expanding brain.
Yeah, I think that was incidental.
No, it is definitely. And it's rummage, not loot, which makes it a lot more contained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be mad if it was loot.
So, obviously, as I was hinting before, and I've talked about this, I think, to Pass the Chips before, I don't like the 2 numbers on Secure here. I think, this is a good representation of the idea of the common structure, but, it has to have the reminder text here to explain how that works. You have to understand the concept of the structure and what it does. And just for this to be added onto that is just the floor for the comprehension complexity is just so high. I think, a lot to read. Of course, Koala seems to disagree with me, but that's fine. Let us move on.
No, I agree.
Oh, okay. I must have misinterpreted what you said earlier then. All right, we have our next card. It is Runestone Wanderer. It is 2 mana for a 1/3 artifact creature, a Golem. Whenever it becomes tapped, you gain 1 life. So this is, once again, when it attacks, you gain 1 life. Probably not going to be doing that too much. But if you're in the Runic deck, you're going to be tapping this for Runic. You're going to be gaining a little bit amount of life every turn when you do that. What do we think?
It seems okay. It does not seem broken by any stretch of the imagination.
I'm not sure you want this and the Scrywall in the same set at the same rarity.
I agree. I think that's too much dirtle for artifact creatures.
I do think this is more compelling than the Scrywall at common.
As a becomes tapped design?
Yeah,
I
just
agree.
because like this actually attacks, so it's less cute. And doesn't like repeatable scry just makes games take a while.
Mm-hmm. Whereas this makes the game take a little bit longer, but this isn't gaining you. This isn't. If this is getting you like 10 life, if this is significantly extending the length of the game, something else is wrong. You know?
It adds turns which create gameplay.
Yes.
You're not watching somebody shuffle cards,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Or
Sure.
look at a card and think about it. You're doing things those extra turns trying to kill somebody.
Yeah. Ruben pointing out that he seems to think that the set does have a lot of stally kind of cards, and this is one of those things that is contributing to that. So yeah, something to think about.
Yeah.
We have the next card. Koala, please.
Ooh, this is interesting. It's a 3-mana artifact creature 4/4 with Defender. It's Ancient Wardens. It can attack this turn. You can pay 4 and a blue, and it can attack this turn as though it didn't have Defender. I feel like this is very similar to Kaladesh Common. That was part of the cycle of creatures with artifact abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It seems fine. I have no issue with it.
Yeah, I think it's a good design. I think obviously the numbers are going to be doing strange things. We've been talking about the 4 toughness, the 4 power cutoff as a thing that's happening in this environment. I think this might be too big.
Yeah, I agree. I don't care if there's precedent or not. I genuinely don't. I think this stone wall is too many creatures. Particularly Warband. Warband puts aggro decks in a situation where they can't just attack with their best creature. A lot of the time,
they have to be attacking with smaller dudes. Yeah,
they have to attack with pairs of 2 to really do anything. This is so hard to trade with.
Mm-hmm.
And trades up so much of the time.
Yeah. So are we thinking 2-mana 3/3?
I just think the gameplay is bad. I do think 2-mana 2/3 would be much more desirable.
Or 2-mana 2/3 even. I could see that, yeah. And then a lower activation cost, of course. Yeah. Passage Chips is asking, at this current cost, a 4/3?
That would at least make it so it trades more often.
Yeah, I mean that's like, it makes it less appealing as a wall, but
I think
it does better stuff.
Blue.
That too as well.
I kind of like it as a 4/2 personally.
Okay, there's a lot of options here. Let us move on to the next card. We have the Crucible Attendant. It is 3 mana for a 2/3 artifact creature golem, and it has 2 and a red, and sacrifice it. It deals 2 damage to target creature. I really like this card. It's just a simple, just like, hey, are you in red? Offers you a little extra utility. Is a filler artifact body, you know?
Yeah, works fine.
Cool. Simon, any thoughts?
None.
Cool. Depending on if this is going into red decks, Ruben's pointing out that maybe this would want to be a 3/2, just to better say like, hey, aggro decks, this is a card you're picking up to be aggressive to the opponent. And
Well, I don't think this actually wants that. Like, it wants to be in the red-green mid-range deck, I would argue. It, like, shocks creatures. And obviously every deck wants removal like that. I think, like, if you're trying to optimize it for gameplay, I would argue 2/3. But if you're trying to make this set less stally,
I think that's what Ruben's getting at.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
But I would change it for that reason, not for being more red.
Let's move on. Koala?
Yes, Forgotten Sanctum. It's another structure. This has 3 mana for a 2 stability artifact with Secure 2, pay 2 mana. Same as the other structure we saw. At the beginning of your end step, untap target permanent. What do we think?
I don't think this does enough.
That sure is a 3-mana card.
I just don't think this does anything.
I think this wants to be 2 mana, honestly.
Easily.
Pseudo, like, you can give a creature vigilance, but it can also be attacked in a race.
I mean, like you could be untapping an artifact that has a tap ability, but as far as we know, there's not very many of those in the set. Like there's runic mana, but this is like, I guess, do you play this in the runic mana deck as just a way to, like, it itself has the ability to enable runic and it untaps another artifact that is giving you runic? You just have runic all the time. But the problem is that then you need to be, for that to be useful, you have to be ways to be spending runic mana on your turn and on your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
You have to.
No,
it's,
I can
it's
get my
like very
creature
strange.
haste on their turn. And also for the runic mana thing, you could just tap the structure.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, or I was saying like it gives you
you
2 of
tap
that.
it and untap itself.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought you
Yeah.
meant untap something else. Like, I don't understand why he made it 3 mana. And even at 2 mana, where it's more reasonably costed, I'm not sure what it's doing in the set.
Well, and we have to keep remembering, being a structure is a downside.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is not, I don't think this is playable just as an artifact. Maybe. I guess it's like kind of like a manolith. If you know what I mean, like
can't
untaps.
really use it for ramp, though.
Right, it's just your end step. Oh my gosh, like the end step timing is just so. I mean, it can't be any other time, right, for common, but like it's so strange.
I just don't want clunky structures at common.
Absolutely.
It's a mechanic that you really have to sell to players.
Yeah.
And a single bad example, I think, could ruin it for some people.
And that's actually something I was thinking about before. Maybe, well, that's something that doesn't matter for this commons review, but there's I think it was 19 structures in the set, which I thought was a little high, and cutting down on that would be an easy way to make it so that there are more good designs that people like, less bad designs that people don't like. Let's move on.
Yes. Let's.
We have the Stoneforge Vestige. It is 3 mana for a 5/5 artifact creature golem. Whenever it attacks or blocks, put a -1/-1 counter on it. So I do not like this design. Mostly because it's not a 5/5. It just, like, it's one of those designs where it lies to the player. Where it says, hey, look, it's a 5/5 with a downside. No, this is a 4/4 with a downside. And that's incredibly unappealing to me. When you end up playing that, when you end up getting that to happen in gameplay, realizing that that's the case, you feel betrayed a little bit. You know?
I shortcut this into my head as 4 becomes tapped for a second, and I was wondering why.
That's funny.
I enjoy this design, just not for common.
I don't
I
know.
like how it works with like Malira in modern. Like there's janky stuff you could do with it in
Sure.
like counters can't be placed on things. So I do like that aspect of it, and I do like how well it does the flavor thing. It's like it's a message. It's a
Yeah, it's very flavorful. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like in terms of flavor and in terms of like making artifact stuff happen throughout the whole set, this could reasonably be just a artifact creature that enters with neg counters on it. Just say like, hey, white black, you're doing neg counter stuff. Maybe you have some incidental artifact stuff you're also doing. Pick up this card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
I have none.
Cool. Let's move on. Koala? Koala? Koala. I'm going to read the card. Oh, he's away for some reason. Alright, I'm going to read the card. It is Tomb Wanderer, 3 mana for a 3/1 artifact creature skeleton. When it enters the battlefield, if black was spent to cast it, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. So this is, I think, is this the first of the cards we've seen that has the, if blank was spent to cast it condition artifact creature as a common?
I believe no. Yes, this is the first we've seen so far.
Cool.
I really like this.
I do as well.
It's like a very fair but fun to use card, and I have seen more than 10 custom designs with this art. Doharum has used it the best.
Absolutely.
With that said, pass the chips. Also send me that art
To
so I can
Photoshop
make
the
a
green
purple.
black. Yes. Yes.
Like,
Make it
although
look great.
green reads as caustic in Magic, it reads as green.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Cool. Let's move on. Koala, would you like to read this one?
Yes, I'll read it. Sorry about that. And no, I did not get chlamydia. I've always had chlamydia, and that.
All right,
has not
that's
stopped me.
thanks. Read the card.
Corrupt Guardian.
Corrupted Guardian. It's a 4 mana 4/2 artifact creature golem. When Corrupted Guardian enters the battlefield, if red was spent to cast it, it deals 2 damage to target player. I like it. I like this cycle we're getting into.
Yep.
It's just nice 4 mana 4/2s. Fine. I like how these seem to be slanted aggressive. Maybe it's just because we have the black and red one. But from what I'm seeing,
I am also a big fan of this.
yeah, it works. It does its job.
Yeah, I have nothing to add really. I do want to say though that I don't think corrupted is the adjective here, although that's not too relevant.
The more important thing is that it's on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immolating guard.
Yeah.
Like corrupted just reads as this is not what it's meant for. And looking at that, I think it was meant to be a furnace.
This is supposed to be a refrigerator.
It's a fun card.
Cool. Let's move on. We have the Heart Tree Warden. For 4 mana, you get a 3/2 artifact creature golem, and for 3 green, you can give it +3/+3 until end of turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. So this is a design with a lot of numbers, and I'm not sure the numbers here are exactly what they want to be. So one thing is obviously having non-square base stats, getting a square stat buff. That's always a little awkward. And just being at its base form of 4 mana 3/2. Like a lot of these last 2 ones we've seen, these off-color artifacts we've seen, are like theoretically filler bodies, but this is just not. Which also feels weird because it's like a green card, which is less known for that. What do you guys think? Oh, sorry. Pass the Chips is in the chat saying this is supposed to be a 3/3. So move forward with that knowledge.
Okay, then as a 3/3, I have no issues with the design.
Yep.
I like how hard it hits. It hits like a truck. It's just like bam, 6 damage to the face.
Yes, like this is one of those ones where it's just like by being bigger than everything else in the format, because it's slightly smaller format, it provides a lot of utility.
I'm looking at every common artifact that is a 3/3 for 4. There's Preston and Dross Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to say that only Preston is like from. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Ruben points out that it curves nicely from 4 mana cast to 5 mana activate, which is really nice.
Yeah, like
I like that quite a bit.
For the red green mid range, or not top end, but close to top end.
Oh yeah,
For the red green mid range.
good stuff.
Also super great.
Cool. We have Intact Laystone. Koala?
Intact Laystone, yes. This is a 4 mana artifact that has tap, add colorless, colorless. If this mana is used to cast an artifact or sealed spell, you gain 1 life.
So I think this is. I feel like after the giving you the mana part, I feel like this is completely unnecessary. Like that's a lot of text for just doing nothing, and this card is just a perfectly usable, just perfectly feels right in the set as a card. Is just something that taps for CC. You know?
And like this is just. It's a colorless explosive vegetation. I'm not
Like it doesn't need upside.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's too on par with green ramp.
Do you think even without that bonus at 4 mana, you think it's too good?
Or arguably, yeah.
I mean, it's also something that the set wants to be pushing as a thing. Like if any set is gonna print 2 good artifact rocks, it's gonna be this one. You know?
It's also comparable to things like Hedron Archive, which I guess this might want to be an uncommon. I don't think it's a common, just because of how much value.
I think he needs it to be at common with Runic Mana. Like not necessarily that Runic Mana needs the support. This is something that says, hey, Runic Mana is more than just improvise.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, just a rock. Like it wants a manolith at common at least. Like manolith doesn't do that. So yeah, just some sort of more than 1 mana rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I would just cut this trinket text. It's like too complicated for trinket text anyways. And move on. And just keep it as is otherwise. Cool. We have the Sanctum Sentinel. It is a 4 mana for a 2/4 artifact creature golem. And it has 2 white. Exile it. Return it to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So if you're in white, you can protect it from removal. Protect it from, like, if you block with it and use it as a, just a continuous blocker for things that should reasonably be killing it.
This makes me really appreciate the trample combat trick in red.
As something where they get rid of the Sanctum Sentinel and you say, my dude is trample now, so you take a bunch of damage.
Yeah. Is onboard slow flicker a common thing? Actually?
I don't know. I'm gonna look at that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's a common thing.
It looks like not since Time Spiral block.
Okay, well, Time Spiral created NWO, so obviously that means it's fine.
Yeah, this may just need to find a different bonus. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd agree there.
Unfortunate.
As much as it pains me.
I mean, it's also just another card that's contributing to perhaps unnecessary stalliness.
Yeah.
Which we've noticed as an abnormality, if not necessarily a problem. I can't speak for the design. So yeah, let's move on. We have another structure. Koala?
Okay. It is Ancient Stronghold. It is a 5 mana with 4 stability. Artifact structure, secure 2 for 3 mana this time, and it has at the beginning of your combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +3/+0 until end of turn.
So this is a very impactful structure. So this is that's a lot of damage every turn.
I have had a conversation with the creator, Pass the Chips, about this, and I believe he is making it secure 1, not secure 2, just because of how warping this can be. There was a vampire in Ixalan for 5 mana, which gave, at the beginning of combat, gave a vampire +3/+0 EOT.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very warping common that was better than most of the uncommons even. And just you never attacked with the vampire itself. You always sent in tokens that it buffed.
Mm-hmm.
And this does the same thing. And you do want like a powerful, impactful structure other than the rummaging one, which is kind of dirtily.
Right. You want an impactful one that is affecting the board.
Yeah. And so I do think it is testable, but really good and concerning, especially with the 5 mana make 3/1/1 flyers that we talked about in the white common review.
Yes.
So, I think they should not be in the same set at common, and one of them needs to be tweaked. Looking at them together.
Mm-hmm.
I could agree with that, yeah.
So this is a card that I at previously times suggested that it should be smaller. Just give +2/+0 and a smaller cost. Might be an avenue to go down.
I would like that. It would just be less brutal. But when it works, especially with the amount of...
Well, so Arshig, it only encourages attacking with one creature. You only need to attack with one of your creatures, and just you can keep everything else up to block. Like that. No, that is what this enables you to do. You know, this does not encourage attacking with the whole team. In fact.
Yep. And threatening, and this, you can even hold up a very dirtily creature that is good at attacking within the set, right?
Mm-hmm.
This set does have a lot of things that are, blocking, that are good at blocking.
Good at attacking.
And in fact, there's the Vigilance common in green. This would be insane with
Oh,
2/5.
make it make it a 4/5 with Vigilance and Reach. Oh my goodness.
Well, 5/5 since it's a 2/5 initially.
Oh right! Wow.
And they curve into each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
For that boy, turn 5 this.
Well, I know what I'm drafting next time.
So yeah, I think that, just like the thing that makes 3 spirits for 5 mana can't be in the same set as the Stronghold.
Mm-hmm.
Just for warpingness. But having 2 cards like that shouldn't be with the Stronghold, I think is an argument for this.
That shows why the Stronghold is problematic.
Yeah, and why it should have smaller numbers, like Zeus said.
Cool. All right, we will move on. We have the Deepwater Strider. It is 5 mana for a 3/5 artifact creature, Golem. When it enters the battlefield, if blue was spent to cast it, you may tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So we have yet another super dirtle body. We got the classic 5 mana 3/5 with an ability that can sometimes allow you to get through, but I imagine with what the stats and mana cost here are, is mostly going to be cast as a, hey, please don't attack me.
So other than the set having too many dirtily pieces, the set also, because it's taking away common creature slots from colors, it then replaces them with very expensive cards. I think this wants to be closer to a Frost Lynx,
Mm-hmm.
since that could function as a curve filler. Like, uh, so many of the colors, they don't need more 5 drops, and they need more low drops. They need things that cost less than 4 mana.
Mm-hmm.
I think this wants to be like a 2/1 for 3 as a side grade Frost Lynx. That would make it less dirtily, and that would fill out creature curves a lot nicer.
I would agree with that.
Cool. Let's move on. We have the Runestone Sculpture. Koala?
Yes. Next up, we have Runestone Sculpture, 5 mana for the 3/3 artifact creature Griffin with flying. When it enters the battlefield, if white was spent to cast it, you gain 3 life. That's good. It's a 5 mana 3/3 flying.
So this is the second 5 mana 3/3 flying that gains life in white.
Yeah, since there's the make 3 spirits gain 3 life.
Strange.
And like this is, other than being an artifact and easier to cast, is much worse. Like dividing it up between tokens is,
Really good.
all intents and purposes, a lot more powerful.
Mhm.
With that said, artifact is a relevant type, and you can just play this in any deck. It's a reasonable design if in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
In the context of set, I think we can all agree it's a little too similar to the 3 white make 3 spirits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so Pass the Chips is in the comments saying that for example, with the Deep Rider Strider, this is replacing a 5 mana creature slot in blue. But I think, Simon, your argument therefore is going to be that because of the fact that the artifact creatures have to necessarily be worse than colored creatures, just because of the nature of how artifact creatures are developed, that's not a recipe for success, because that means a bunch of high-cost bad cards.
Well, and if that is replacing a blue 5-drop, I would say look at blue's curve. I think the curves are way too top heavy in general. So even if it is intended to replace a 5-drop, I would consider making that 5-drop a 3-drop.
Wait, so that means 2 blue 5-drops? Is that normal? That seems not normal.
I'm not sure. I think it's normally like a 5-drop and a 6-drop.
Yeah, I mean, and he has a 6-drop.
Yeah.
Right? So in actual blue, he has a 5-drop and a 6-drop, and now he's another blue 5-drop. I don't think that's the correct curve. It does, but usually at the 4 mana slot. You know? It's something to think about. We have our next card. It is the Ageless Behemoth. It is 6 mana for a 5/6 artifact creature golem. This is a beefy monster. When it enters the battlefield, if green was spent to cast it, target creature you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn.
Hey, this is kind of overlapping with the 7-drop in prohibitively hard to cast creature.
Mm-hmm.
Like when green I imagine when green gets a 7-drop, it replaces the 6-drop green common.
Yes, so this is also additionally strange for making green's curve artificially high.
I do enjoy giant growth on the just big.
Oh, like this effect is. I love it a lot.
Yeah, it's just. I think it contributes to dirtiness. I think it contributes to curves being hard to fill out.
Any thoughts, Koala?
The art.
Koala?
What was
thoughts? Just thoughts on this card?
I like it. Although it is a bit strange. I just imagine playing this in a non-green deck and being totally okay with it. So 5/6.
Yeah, that's
like-
also a part of it that's strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happened with the elephant with vigilance in Amonkhet, the
Mm.
white one.
Koala
It was good.
Dash, right?
Yeah,
No.
in Kaladesh.
Yeah.
It was a very similar card.
Cool.
Next up, Stonebound Shadow. It's a 6 mana for a 5/5 artifact creature wraith, and it has 2 black. Stonebound Shadow gains lifelink until end of turn.
I'm a lot more fine with this. I definitely think that
I would
it
agree.
seemed like black wasn't having like a higher curve, so this is the high curve for black. And it's just a big monster that wins you the game and stops you from losing the
I
game.
feel like the activated ability could be way cheaper though.
I think this is about where it wants to be be honest.
Well, like 5 power lifelink at common is something I don't mind being prohibitive.
Yeah, because this is you can think about this as like 2 black, you gain 5 life.
Yeah.
Like that's every turn.
I do adore the Shadow of the Colossus-esque art.
Yeah, that art
It's
doesn't
very
speak very
Doharum.
No.
Like, it doesn't exactly, the art doesn't read like a wraith. Wraiths in Magic tend to be smaller, like humanoid and
Yeah.
gangly.
I know that he was struggling with trying to figure out what creature type this is. What would you give your opinion on that?
Hmm?
What would you say? What would you say this creature type should be from the art?
It's obviously not a shade, like, it's not an elemental because it's an artifact. Like, giant golem?
It's
He's using
hard.
like elemental art on an artifact, I
Mhm.
think is part of it.
Yeah.
But it's like it elemental, giant, or golem, I think would be the 3 I would consider. Since it just doesn't fit what raves are in Magic.
Yep.
I would say Golem, personally.
Okay. Next card. We have the Rune Rot Purveyor. It is the last common. We're almost done, gentlemen. It is 7 mana for a 4/5 artifact creature, Leviathan. It is flying. It's just a giant flyer. I like this.
Yeah, like normally the artifact flyer is 6 mana, but and is just a 4/4. This is 5 toughness, so it doesn't die to the like common red removal
Mm-hmm.
at all. Well, the artifact removal it obviously does too, but the 5 damage. Like I think this is fine. Flying Leviathan is interesting. I know Esper had that as a plane though,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not new.
Yeah, I think this is fine.
Agreed.
Like, yeah, I don't like. I love that art. Feels very Doharum.
It's good stuff. So one of the things we talked a lot about, especially when we moved into the artifacts, just because we had then at that point more knowledge about what was happening across all the colors, we were seeing what was being encouraged by the artifacts themselves. Past the Chips is talking in the comments about how he does want a slow environment, and one of the things that he did want was an environment where these big, hulking artifact creatures were kind of dominating the late game environment. So that's why he's saying a lot of why those are these big creatures. What is there anything we have to say to any of that?
Yeah, like I agree that evocative, like for the flavor to be evocative, you want the artifacts. I agree that you want a slow environment. I think the set does want that, but you still need to fill out your creature curves. You want limited decks to cast things on time. And when I've drafted the set, when I've played Healed of the set, and when just looking at the curves, I feel light on 3-drops and 2-drops. And I think that is something that should be fixed. The flavor of artifacts are larger than you. You are insignificant. Can easily, like, that weight can be pulled by only a few artifacts, especially at common.
Mm-hmm. Like a single really good high curve artifact is really impactful. You'll feel its impact in any game that it shows up in. You know, like that giant lifelinker. Like I will remember the games I will play with that giant lifelinker.
Or the player, like,
or the Rune Rot Purveyor. Exactly, it's the exact kind of card that I want to be doing that.
Just one. And at Uncommon, you have so much more freedom for that. That's where you should be going wild with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the commons get to be a little bit less that way. That's good stuff. I mean, and also like the flavor of artifacts are bigger than you. That's also something that structures are doing. You know?
Yeah. I don't like how slow it is.
Yeah.
It seems like glacially slow.
Like, and the slower the format, like, is, so the gameplay of structures only happen when structures are being attacked and you have to defend them.
Yep.
When you make everything sturdily, the gameplay doesn't happen, and they're just artifacts with a weird number on them. So even if you want, like, not that it can't, the gameplay won't happen in a slower environment, but like Ruben was saying, it won't happen in a glacial environment.
Yeah. And if there's anything this desert isn't, it's glacial.
Anyway, the set overall, I think I wish it was using some of its comprehension complexity more effectively. I really
I would
enjoy
agree
how
with
evocative everything is overall, but a lot of the rules text I feel is just kind of messy or disorganized in some places. I think a lot of the intended gameplay synergies in particular are actually clean and desirable. I think I don't know, I'm happy with this overall. I just think it could use a lot of polish.
I'd very much agree. Yep. I think we're all like, this is a good product. I mean, like we said before, or I don't remember if this was during any of these streams or not, but we said, this is a playable set. Good things are happening in the set currently. There's just some things that are getting in the way of those good things, and there are some things that are here that are bad and can and will be removed. We have faith in you, Past the Chips. Obviously, we didn't look at anything above the commons, though, so maybe I hope not to look at those someday and be disappointed.
We just look at the mythics, never talk to him again.
We're just like, what have we done? This is not what we expected at all. All right, at this point, so we are now finished going through all the commons. We've talked about individual card designs, a lot of the different stuff that was happening across colors, across the whole set in general, design, developmental issues. What we can do on this point is, I don't know, just like take questions from the audience. If anyone in the chat right now has any questions for Past the Chips, who's there also in the chat with you, has any questions for us now that we've just gone through this whole thing, just as anything that they would want us to discuss, maybe, especially if it's something where you're saying, hey, take a 5-minute conversation to talk about X aspect of the set or something like that, I would be happy to do that. But if not, we'll probably be ending the stream in short order. Yes, yeah. So Simon points out that it's like because we've done sealed pools and drafts and stuff. A lot of time curves and stuff like that it's more a feeling than anything, because especially like depending on the playability and the kind of like the aggressive versus defensive slant of cards at different slots will make you experience a feeling of having an embarrassment of riches or having a complete lack of options differently depending on what you're trying to do in a particular playtesting session. You might say, oh my gosh, this aggro deck, it has no 3-drops. There's just no 3-drops for this deck in this environment or something like that. Whereas this other deck is saying, oh, these 3-drops are great. I just want all of these.
Ultimately, Master Chips, you obviously have more data than us. In fact, if you haven't already, I would urge you to archive as many past decks that have been built with Doharum as you can to see if our claims of awkward mana curves holds water, since you're the one who has that data. If you're skeptical of the claims, I mean.
And I imagine all of us here who are many of us are showing up because we're interested in the set. Obviously, I would not be doing this review, organizing it, if I was not interested in the set. I will be, and I hope some of the rest of us here in the stream today and in the chat will be doing more playtesting, more sealed pools, more drafts, etc., etc., etc. So you will get that data. Good stuff. All right. So I don't think, did we see any questions coming out in the... Drake asks, where's the donate link? Ha. I'm not that kind of streamer yet, Drake.
I mean, I will. If you want to give me money, I will take it.
Yeah, give Koala your money.
Zoo with his integrity.
Oh my goodness. All right. Thank you very much, everyone who's been viewing and participating in the chat. We're going to end the stream now. I at least am going to be going for a little.
Is writing out a question.
Oh, he is. Is this something we can just? Oh, where are the real problem cards in terms of experience? So obviously, when you're going through and looking at what we've talked about in our individual design critiques, you'll see some of that, and you'll be able to piece together some of the cards that are just like, oh wow, this is really contributing to this mana slot feeling unfilled. You know what I mean?
By nature, it's nothing in particular. It's like red flags. It's a tax. There's a budget for it that you've exceeded, so it's hard to say this card is an issue.
Yeah, it's an aggregate.
I
mean, and that's why we do keep saying we expect you, we think you will be able to solve these problems, because you will be the one knowing more about it. When you know that there's a problem, you'll be able to more kind of generally see the outline of this is contributing to that problem, this is fixing that problem, this is neutral,
Yeah, like you have the power, you have data to say, no, this is relevant rules text, and I enjoy what it does to the environment. And sure, a lot, even though we participate in some playtests, a lot of this is ultimately speculation.
I mean, speculation and extrapolation from previous experience.
Yeah, just we have so much less data.
Doesn't mean we're wrong, though.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end the stream on that. You may see any number of us in the Custom Magic Discord voice channel. You can see the link to that if you didn't come from here, which you almost certainly did. But you can see the link to that up in the top right corner of the screen. Thank you, everybody. We are getting out of here.
Have a good day.